invocation by Chaplain Durham.
Gracious Heavenly Father, we gather this afternoon to honor you and to pay a fitting tribute to those who have served our country with honor. These great leaders have given a great portion of their life in selfless service to you and to our country. We pray that you would accept this occasion as a joyful celebration of thanksgiving on behalf of their faithful service. May you continually hold them and their families in the palm of your hand as new adventures unfold them. Provide them with a distinct vision of this next chapter of their lives and the grace to live it fuller. Thank you for allowing them to pass our way, and may we now all sense a bountiful measure of your presence as we celebrate this ceremony together. And I ask this in your name. Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, please be seated. Please join me in a round of applause for the team of soldiers who assisted with setting up today's ceremony, and for those soldiers currently participating in the ceremony. Also give a round of applause and a special thanks to the 282nd Army Band from Fort Jackson for providing the music for today's ceremony. Ladies and gentlemen, on behalf of Lieutenant General Michael X. Garrett, the Commanding General of United States Army Central, thank you for attending today's Celebration of Service ceremony. Our hosts for today's Celebration of Service ceremony are the United States Army Central G8 Brigadier General Edith Hubbard and the G8 Sergeant Major Hurlitz Henderson. We would like to extend a special welcome to our distinguished guests, Brigadier General Lee Gray, United States Army Central, Army Reserve Engagement Cell Director. Mr. Hodges Anthony, United States Army Central, Deputy Chief of Staff. Mr. Jim McCain, Sumter County Council Chairman. Other distinguished guests, directors and staff of United States Army Central, family members, colleagues of our retirees being honored today's ceremony. Each month, a celebration of service ceremony is held to honor our soldiers and Department of the Army civilians who have served their country with distinction. Today, we honor 4 retirees. Lieutenant Colonel Ava Winford, who is retiring after 35 years of service. Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Heinz, who is retiring after 25 years of service. Command Sergeant Major David Lally, who is retiring after 31 years of service. And Sergeant First Class Jenine West, who is retiring after 24 years of service. These soldiers' combined years of service equals more than 115 years. An official biography for each of our retirees is located in your program. Ladies and gentlemen, it is my distinct pleasure to introduce the presiding officer for today's celebration of service. Please give a warm welcome to our G8 Director, Brigadier General Kenneth Hubbard.
Wow. Wow, wow, wow. I don't know, somebody told me this is the largest crowd they have ever seen for one of these ceremonies. Maybe I shouldn't use it. Talk to you. Y'all let me know if you can't hear me. Okay. But good afternoon. Thank you for attending today's celebration of service, where we will recognize and celebrate the distinguished careers of 4 exceptional soldiers and their families. Of course, you've heard Lieutenant Colonel Ava Winford from the G3, 35 years of total service. Lieutenant Colonel Heinz from the Engineers with 25 years of service. Sergeant Major David Lee, all decked out today. From the 2503rd Digital Liaison Detachment, 31 years of service. And Sergeant First Class Jenine N of the G4, 24 years of service. Sergeant Major Henderson and I are honored to have this opportunity to host this celebration of service on behalf of the Commander, Lieutenant General Garrett, and Command Sergeant Major Dosty. I want to pass along their best wishes to our 4 retirees and their families as they transition to their next phase as a soldier for life. As a senior officer, I get to participate in commissionings and promotions and awards, but I will tell you, retirements are the most special. Those are all special occasions, but retirements are the most special occasions because we celebrate a family and a soldier commitment to service and commitment to this nation. So I also want to recognize our distinguished guest, General Gray, Mr. Anthony, I say honorable Mr. McCain. So we really thank the members of the Sumter community for embracing 3rd Army since we moved here. So, sir, your presence is appreciated. And as we talked about before, I usually miss. So if there's somebody else here from the community, please stand. They're not okay. I want to make sure I don't miss them. I would. It's also fitting on this particular day that I would like to recognize, and I met a lot of you. I would like to recognize all the military veterans in the audience. If you could just please stand for a second. All of the military veterans. We got Coast Guard, we got Army. Okay, so thank you for your attendance and support of this ceremony. November the 7th, 2018 will mark the centennial of United States Army Central. The theme of this year-long celebration is a century of constant readiness. We will be celebrating by reflecting on qualities that make USARCENT great: strength, service, and honor. Beginning January 3rd, we celebrate the first 100 days, which are all about strength. The 100 days of strength challenge is to incorporate at least one strength-building activity into your routine every day. I would like to officially give every one of you participating today in this ceremony credit for your spiritual, mental, and relational strength-building activity for today. I can think of no better representation of strength of USARCENT than the 4 soldiers and their families represented here today, and your support of them truly qualifies as a strength-building activity. Now, when you evaluate strength of individuals, you must consider their reliability and commitment. And I'm going to talk a lot about commitment today. But our retirees epitomize the commitment to a nation. Everyone has heard the numbers that less than 1% of our nation actually serves in the military. But I can tell you, I'm not worried today about that 99% that does not serve. I am just thankful for these retirees today and people like them who want to serve our nation. As the G8, I'm the economist of USARCENT. We have an economic theory called comparative advantage. A comparative advantage says that it is not very efficient to take on every task that you're capable of doing. Instead, you're supposed to specialize in the tasks that you are relatively better at compared to other tasks. This works for countries, works for states, works for companies, even for the division of labor in families. These 4 retirees recognized early in life that their task was service to others. It takes a special person to volunteer to join the Army, to spend the entire career serving others, to eat, sleep, and breathe the Army values of loyalty, duty, respect, selfless service, honor, integrity, and personal courage. You will hear stories today of soldiers who made the commitment at a young age against the norms of their neighborhood, against the advice of friends and family, to join the military. This dedication to service is no small feat in today's society of individuals. But they did not complete their task alone. A previous chief of staff of the Army used to say the strength of our nation is our Army. The strength of our Army is our soldiers. The strength of our soldiers is in our families. The Army recognizes that the selfless dedication and commitment of Army families directly contributes to the readiness of our soldiers. Commitment is not judged by where you start. Commitment is judged by where you finish. These soldiers have finished strong. Today we celebrate the strength, service, and honor of 4 soldiers and their families. Our 4 retirees, as you've heard, have served faithfully for more than a combined 115 years. We all owe them a huge debt of gratitude for all they have done. On behalf of a grateful nation and the United States Army, I thank you for your service. Please give our retirees another round of applause. And please join me in a round of applause for their family members and friends, too numerous today. None of us can serve without the love and support of families and friends. Let's give them a hand. Okay, it's time to tell you a little bit about our retirees, starting with Lieutenant Colonel Ava Winford. Please come forward. Thank you. All right. Okay, Lieutenant Colonel Winford retires today with 35 years of total service. She is joined today by her uncle and aunt, John and Clara Farrar. Clara is her mother's sister and the youngest of 19 siblings. We were talking in the back, so when you're the youngest girl of 19 siblings. You're not the baby, you're the baby, the baby. The baby. So she let me know that. And her aunt, Mary Thomas. Also here are her cousin, Lonnie Hendrick, a Master Sergeant retired, and his wife, Linda. Her aunt, Frances Hendrick, and her cousin, Carolyn Hendrick. And so really appreciate y'all for being here. Ava also asked me to recognize the following individuals who came a long way. Catherine Miller of Jupiter, Florida. Darlena Craig of Dumfries, Virginia. Who is a Tech Sergeant retired. Tasha and Master Sergeant Nick Lucius of Dalzell, South Carolina. I met Lieutenant Colonel retired Ellis Parker of Sumter, and Senior Master Sergeant retired Jim Crawford. Sorry, I didn't get so far back. And then we've got Tech Sergeant retired Lee Smith of Sumter, Tech Sergeant Tiffany Hall of Sumter, Connie Weiss of Hopkins, South Carolina, John and Clarissa Williams of Dalzell, South Carolina, as well as all of the G37 family. Okay, so and so somebody who's not here, but I'd also like to acknowledge Colonel Winford's father, First Sergeant Robert D. Winford, who has since passed away, but served 21 years in the Army and was a recipient of a Bronze Star with V device for heroism in connection with operations against the hostile force in the Republic of Vietnam. Lieutenant Colonel Winford was raised in Mecklenburg County, Virginia. We figured out that's between Petersburg and Raleigh, right there on 85. She was commissioned in 1980 and entered the United States Army in 1984 as a signal officer. She attended the signal officer basic course right down at Fort Gordon, Georgia. Her assignments include several tours in Germany, Fort Meade, the Pentagon, all around the National Capital Region, and a joint base in McGuire-Dix, New Jersey. Her career culminated as executive officer in the Training and Security Cooperation Directorate at USARCENT. Her deployments include a tour in Afghanistan with US-4A and 2 tours to Kuwait. Yes, we will get that second one. Okay? Yeah,
I broke my
but we count it. Colonel Winford will reside in Dalzell, South Carolina upon retirement and plans to take her RV on the road. Okay, so I don't know exactly what this means. I don't know exactly if I'm saying this right, but it says here, whoop, whoop. Lieutenant Colonel Winford is actually recognized for her many performances of the national anthem at numerous military ceremonies and events throughout her career. She even told me once when she was at the Defense Logistics Agency where they were looking for somebody to sing the national anthem, and they asked if anybody could do it. She raised her hand. She did it without any type of audition, and the Lieutenant General who was there at the time was worried they were going to have a bad American Idol moment. But obviously, she did an outstanding job at that. And so with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Colonel Winford.
I'm not going to mess with that either, because I think I'll echo. Hopefully everyone can hear me. I'll try to bring out my public speaking cheerleader Deputy Commander voice. First of all, I want to give all glory and honor to my Lord and Savior Jesus Christ, without whom I wouldn't even be standing here today. So thank you for officiating today's ceremony. Sergeant Major, General Gray, Mr. Anthony, Mr. McCain. I don't really have a speech, because I think, and I'll try to make this as short as possible. I think sometimes even when you do that, you probably don't really say what you think you're going to say. There are many people in my career, you know, across all ranks and that I can thank. I'm not even going to try to name any of them by name because I know, one, most of them are not here, and secondly, I would forget someone. So I just want to say a general thank you. Thank you to my family for being here. And I'll try to get through this without being a complete ball mess up here. As General Hubbard said, my mother passed away long before any of this was a possibility. I was still a second lieutenant when she died. But the relationship that I have with that woman right there is the one that I think I would have with Mommy were she still alive. So, I didn't expect to fall apart. Thank you for all my friends that are here, the rest of my family, my 2 aunts that were able to show up. I do have more, as you can imagine from the number of people that are going to get hurt. We could do a basketball team, a couple football teams, thank you to my friends here in the Sumter area that were able to come. My girlfriend from North Virginia and from Florida, and my G37 family. But I would be very remiss if I didn't give honor to the person that is part of why I'm here, and that's my mom. And I have something that I would like to present. I modified the words somewhat. Bear with me, and hopefully I can make it through it without totally falling apart. And if I'm not looking at anybody, please don't assume that I'm trying to be rude, but I just probably can't look at faces. It must have been cold there in my shadow to never have sunlight on her face. She was content to let me shine, that was her way. She always walked a step behind. So I was the one with all the glory, while she was the one with all the strength. A beautiful face without a name for so long. A beautiful smile to hide the pain. Did she ever know she was my hero? And everything I wish I could be. I can fly higher than any
Delaware, South Carolina, to say sang. All right. Colonel Heinz, please come forward. When I talk to these individuals, or individually, and then I met their families, I knew we were going to have a good time today. So I'm pretty interested where this is going. But our second retiree is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Heinz, who is retiring today with 25 years of service. He is joined by his parents, Al and Betty Heinz. So Al was stationed in the mountains north of Chu Lai, Vietnam, and is a Bronze Star recipient. So thank you for your service, sir. And so not here today, but I also would like to acknowledge Steve's grandfather, Clarence Heinz, who is no longer with us, but was on Utah Beach on D-Day and participated in the Battle of the Bulge and Berlin Independence. Yeah, I'll give him one. I mean, you just see the heritage of the military service throughout these families. But also here today are his in-laws, Daryl and Carol Richmond, and his sister, Julie. I got all spread out. So also I met here today his friends, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Tedeschi, First Sergeant Patrick Davis, and Sergeant First Class Mike Jones. And then I wrote down some more who I met in the, so we had all the way from Baltimore. You gotta recognize people. They came all the way from Baltimore. Ann and Lee Richmond. There it is. And their daughters, Emma and Sammy. And then from all the way from Minnesota, Jeff Richmond, who flew. And then some other neighbors, Danny Parsons, Art, and Sue Kibbe. Okay, and so this is, just understand, there's a huge Minnesota contingent in here. So if you got some Eagles fans, this is not your day. Okay, this is Vikings Day. We'll see what happens this weekend. But there's some people over here who already have their Super Bowl tickets. Right. The Super Bowl is being played in Minnesota, and Vikings found them a quarterback this year. So Steve is a native of Minnesota, where he began his career in 1993 as an enlisted heavy equipment operator with the Minnesota National Guard. Heavy equipment, Minnesota weather, rough time. So he was doing the S&P program, simultaneous membership program, and graduated from St. John's University there in Minnesota, earned his commission in 1998 through the Reserve Officer Training Program as a second lieutenant in the Army Corps of Engineers. His assignments include Korea, Fort Jackson, Fort McCoy, and Fort Stewart. Steve deployed to Iraq twice, 2 more times to Afghanistan, and the last one here with USARCENT to Kuwait in support of Operation Inherent Resolve. A lot of deployment time for him and his family. So during his time here at USARCENT, Steve was assigned to the engineering plans and operations section, along with being selected as the executive officer, which is a tough job for the USARCENT Chief of Staff. Following his duties as the executive officer, he went back to the engineers, culminating his career as the engineer plans and officer chief. Steve and his wife Denise have been married for 19 years, and and have 3 children. I didn't want to upset Denise. Denise is a FBI intelligence analyst and was an Army captain in the logistics corps. So thank you for your service. The oldest daughter I met, Trinity, 16, could play 6 instruments, and wants to follow Daddy and be an Army nurse. So we will definitely support you in your endeavor. And then their daughter, Sophie, who's 15 and just loves animals. And then I met Joseph, who's is he hiding? Yeah. So Joseph is a big 10. He's a little tall for his age and loves to play on the PlayStation. He says Daddy is going to get a job at the movie theater so we can have free movies. We'll be working on that. So all 3 children attend school in Berlin, Illinois, where Steve plans to reside in Berlin, Illinois, and become an alpaca farmer. That is the goal. Okay. So we don't want to get this messed up. So you don't. This is an alpaca. All right. So, do not confuse. Oh, y'all can't see it in the back. Do not confuse this with the llama. All right. I just wanted to make sure they got this. So you know I had to Google it. Alpacas are shy and quiet. They're easy to train and handle, and extremely intelligent. They rarely bite, spit, or kick. That's good. And have far less problems than other livestock, such as sheep and calves. So we will be looking forward to that alpaca farm. But I would like to turn the floor over to Steve. Thank you, sir.
All right. So one guy told me right before this speech that there is no crying at a retirement ceremony. So I'm going to try. I'm sorry, but no, that's for my parents. You know, I'll try. General Hubbard, thank you. Sergeant Major Henderson, General Gray. Hey, Mr. Anthony, how you doing? Yeah, thanks for being here, Mr. McCain. Fellow officers, NCO soldiers, and ladies and gentlemen, thank you for being here today. It's huge. It's awesome to see all the friends and family here. So let's begin. In the immortal words of the talented Vanilla Ice, yo, VIP, let's kick it. All right, stop, collaborate, and listen. All right. Colonel Winford, I mean, you and I have the same thing. We like to sing, right? But I'm more of a rapper. So throughout my time in the military and life, I've used music to get through things. That's what I've done. But nothing will change here. So let's begin the beautiful military journey of Stephen A. Heinz. It was the worst of times, and it was the best of times. Luckily, the best of times basically trumped the worst of times. When I joined the military as a heavy equipment operator, my only goal was to make E4. Well, I think I did a little bit better than that. The reason I stayed is because of the people. I met and worked with the best people America has to offer. It didn't matter about race, religion, creed, or where you came from. We were always a team. So let's talk about another 90s lyrical group by the name of the Blank Hole Surfers that once stated, cinnamon and sugary and softly spoken lines. You never know just how you look through other people's eyes. Some will die in hot pursuit in fiery auto crashes. Some will die in hot pursuit while sifting through my ashes. Some will fall in love with life and drink it from the fountain that is pouring like an avalanche coming down the mountain. The key to this musical gem is that one, you never know just how you look through other people's eyes. What you really want to care about is when I retire, that if I'm walking down the street, I hope that you guys looked at me like, oh, this is the guy that I want to talk to. Not just be like a guy that's walking down the street, yeah, I remember him, that dude, I worked with him 5 years ago, let's just keep on going. So I just want to make sure that that's cool. And finally, I believe I fell in love with life that is pouring like an avalanche coming down the mountain. Everything I do, I try and have fun, and that's what I'm trying to do here. Well, enough about me. Let me thank my teammates that got me here. First, the MVP, my beautiful wife, Denise. As the artist known as Pink once stated in her ballads, try. Where there is desire, there's going to be a flame. Where there is a flame, someone's bound to get burned. But just because it burns doesn't mean you're going to die. You got to get up and try and try and try. You got to get up and try and try and try. My wife's been through with me through 5 combat deployments. Got to think of another funny song. Get her left. The birth and raising 3 beautiful children, multiple moves, and just plain old Army chicanery. She always stood with me after 19 years of marriage, and we're still together, and that will not change. Now it's my turn to stand next to her as she works for the FBI in Springfield, Illinois, in our new home. I promise you, ladies, I will try and try and try. And as Yoda once says, do or do not. There is no try. So I'll try and do everything and give you and the children everything that you've given me during my military training. The seance, let me try. Well, at least I was the Little Falls Community High School Home Economic Student of the Month in 1993. That's kind of a big deal. Broke the gender barriers on that one, so at least I can cook, so I got that. All right, to my children, I know I missed a lot of you guys growing up, being in the military, but things are going to change. As stated by the honest rapper Ava M, guess who's back? Daddy's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Guess who's back? Yo. All right. Trinity, you're bright and intelligent. I wish the best thing when you go to college. Whatever you decide to do, I'll study and I will support you no matter what. Be it as an Army nurse or whatever. I have your back. When we start giving out presents, Trinity, you'll get my pocket constitution that I've carried with me at all times, knowing that what I was here to do was to support and defend the Constitution of the United States. And that may be your job as well. Sophie. Oh boy. My little animal lover, I want you to just continue just to be you. I'm proud of you. When you get the gifts, you'll get my identification tags that I've worn for 25 years. Joseph, you are still a young Padawan, and much to learn, young Jedi Master. Coming back to your training. To you, I will give you my father's watch he wore in Vietnam, and the same watch that I wore through all my deployments. Now, I'm not going to go to all Christopher Walken from Pulp Fiction, but just want to know that that's very special. Not many people got that. Must have been. Where's my Gen X people at? I mean, that fun. To my parents, Alan and Betty Heinz, thank you for molding me into the man I am today. To my father, First Sergeant Heinz, thank you for tutoring me throughout my military journey. And to my mother, thank you for teaching me that kindness is always key. And thank you for helping my family during all these times. To my little sister, Julie, thank you for all the fun times, especially thank you for the cases of SpaghettiOs on all the deployments. Amazon Prime is one heck of a thing. To my mother and father-in-law, Daryl and Carol Richmond, thank you for creating such a beautiful daughter, and thank you for helping my family during all the moves of my deployments. To all my veteran friends that have come up to see my retirement, Lieutenant Colonel Frank Tedeschi, Major Scott Flanders, Captains Brian and Gigi Rowland, First Sergeant Pat Davis, Sergeant First Class Mike Jones, and Staff Sergeant John Nessa. I give you this one from the great southern land, greetings Clearwater Wild. Some folks inherit star-spangled eyes, ooh, and they sent you down to war. Lord, and when you ask them, how much should we give? Who? The only answer is more, more, more. Y'all, it ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no military son. No, it ain't me. It ain't me. I ain't no fortunate one. To my fellow ARCENT folks I've worked through during my entire year, I say thank you. War Plans team, thank you. One of the toughest working people here. Engineer Director, Master Sergeant Velosky, it's all your fault. Sergeant Cunningham, I have something for you after this. And finally to the Chief of Staff Office, especially Mike Flynn and Mr. Anthony, thank you. We had a good time. And to all my friends and family that I didn't speak of, my apologies, but thank you for all you've done for my family. In closing, I'd like to quote Ronald Reagan, freedom is never more than one generation away from extinction. We didn't pass it to our children through the bloodstream. It must be fought for, protected, and handed on them to do the same. Thank you very much for all who have attended. And finally, the final word from One Vanilla Ice. Yo, man, let's get out of here.
Brought back a lot of memories with all of this. I gotta tell you, I'm a member of the hip hop generation, so I appreciate that. Sergeant Major, who? With the hat, you look good. You look good. All right. Sergeant Major Lily retired today with 31 years of service. He is joined by his wife, Renee, who
Thank you. Thank you.
take pictures. Okay. Just lost my place. We're having fun today, though. But Renee was a medic in the Army and is now a regional manager for the commissary, which includes Shaw and Fort Jackson. And their children, Devon, there we go, who's 16, and Lucas, 15. Devon is an all-around scholar athlete. He's won the Coaches Award in cross country. Oh, I'm not running against you. While Lucas is actually, stand up. Yeah, it's good. I love your uniform. He's looking sharp today. But thank you. Lucas is the best archer in the family. After receiving some coaching from his father, he's went to the national and world champions for archery. So also with Sergeant Major today are his mother, Rafaela, his sisters, Lucy, Evelyn, Jacqueline, and Renee. Y'all got to, there we go. All right, thank you. They all favor. His in-laws, Paul and Madeline Burgal. His brother-in-laws, Adam Williams and Peter Burgal. So Adam is a retired New York police officer. Thank you for your service. And Peter, who just recently retired, a member of the Coast Guard. So thank you for your service. And then you have members of his Army family, Scott and Kathy Maddox, who they've known for over 20 years. But Sergeant Major was born in Brooklyn, New York, and was raised on Long Island and Martinique, French West Indies. He entered the Army in 1987 from Long Island, New York. I have to tell this story because it ends well, right? It does. But the Sergeant Major was actually chaptered out of the Army. So he enlisted in the Army. He enlisted as a truck driver. So some recruiter out there enlisted as a truck driver. Well, you don't have to drive a lot in Brooklyn, New York. Sergeant Major didn't even know how to drive. So when they found out he didn't know how to drive, false enlistment, and he got chaptered out of this. And so I'm glad I can tell this story because obviously he made it to the rank of Sergeant Major. So he came back, enlisted. He didn't quit. He didn't quit and continued. And I'll tell this other story too. So he didn't know how to drive a car, and one of the stories he told me about was how he learned how to drive a stick shift, a manual, about 4 hours on the Autobahn in Germany. And that car, that Army vehicle. And all of his stories end so well because he ended up being the company commander's driver. So Sergeant Major just overcomes. He got so many stories, unbelievable. So I failed to mention that the Sergeant Major's father wanted him to join the Air Force or the Navy, but he obviously wanted to join the Army, and he did that. But he promised his father when he enlisted in the Army, he would earn his college degree. He graduated cum laude while going to school with Renee. Of course, Renee graduated summa cum laude. No competition in this. Just intestinal fortitude of this individual and his family. His assignments include Fort Hood, Fort Knox, Fort Bliss, Korea, and Germany. His career culminated as the 2503rd Digital Liaison Detachment Chief of Operations, Sergeant Major here at United States Army Central. His deployments included Desert Shield, Desert Storm, Bosnia, 3 tours in Iraq, which unbelievable. Sergeant Major plans to take some time off to relax, work on the farm. He hopes to become a junior ROTC cadre or Camden City Councilman in the future. He will reside in Camden, South Carolina. Sergeant Major, I will turn the floor over to you.
Wow. All right. Distinguished guests, thank you for coming. Sir, appreciate the kind words. Appreciate you. Definitely having a good time now. Friends and families, appreciate you. Thank you for coming and supporting this great ceremony. DLD, where you at? Woo! There you go. Sorry, sir, I didn't say DLD. 2503rd. Digital Liaison. Where you at? I said it right, see, sir. I didn't get that. Woo! All right, I'm put my glasses on that have Pope bubbles for us then. All right. So where's it start? So I want to say, first, thank you to, God Almighty for giving me the wisdom and the passion to continue on, the drive as being a soldier. I know without him that I wouldn't be here today. There's a lot of things that I've gone through, and I know that he was there for me, pushing me through. And I'm praying, and I know my family was always there pushing me along. So I just want to make sure that's first and first Almighty. So, where do I start? I see you, Mr. Hewitt, over there. So, I just gonna see, because I seen your face there, you just changed everything as always. So, Mr. Hewitt was one of my platoon sergeants back in the good old days when I was a first sergeant. And he did the same thing to me. It just popped out of nowhere, and he just would rattle something off and just like throw me for a loop. And he did it again, and threw me for a loop. But thank you, I appreciate you, I love you, yours my brother. So where do I start? I can remember back just a few years ago, I enlisted in the Army at a young age of 19, with no clue what I was going to do and what the Army was about. My father wanted me to join the Air Force. He wanted me to go to the Coast Guard, first of all, because there was a Coast Guard base right next to us. I told him I couldn't swim. I told him I don't want to fly. I'm going to stay on the ground. So I decided to go be a truck driver, and that, you heard the story, they failed miserably at that. So I became an armor tanker guy. They showed me this cool video with this tank flying in the air. And they showed me the aftermath that you had to put all the track back together and everything else. But I went that route, which is fun. So my plan was to join the military, stay in the military for 3 years, get out, use the GI Bill, and then work for my dad at the United Nations. Sounded good at the time. At least I had a plan. I could say that, but it wasn't that kind of plan. But something happened. I realized there was more to it. It wasn't about the GI Bill. It wasn't about the money. It was about the friendship I made and about bonding with fellow soldiers, as they always had my back. Even when we was out jumping at the club, yes, I used to hang out at the club in Germany, and you had everybody chasing you down the street, but they always had my back and I always had their back. Even on the battlefield, they always had my back and they could always count on me, and I could always count on them. As time went on, I realized the Army was about commitment and dedication to the country, my unit, and family. Being in the Army is not just a job, it's a profession of military, many talented individuals that strive to be great warriors and leaders, and each of them are willing to sacrifice oneself to ensure your safe return home. So it's like you just read my speech, commitment, so I don't know if you, but I overlooked my shoulder last night or something I was writing this. Maybe I was looking over your shoulder when you were writing. All right. So, as I said, the Army's not about just a job, it's about profession. Profession's about many talented individuals that strive to be great warriors and leaders, and each of them will sacrifice. The list of names is a bit long, so here we go. Just joking, I'm not going to do that because it's going to be too long, and I don't want you guys to deal with that. So I'll only say thank you to the many mentors I had, great leaders and leaders, and thank you to the soldiers that really deserve the credit for they're the one that execute in the missions from rain and shine, morning, night. You tell them what to do and they'll execute. They might ask why, but they'll execute. I want to make sure, who was that? Oh, I just want to make sure. I'm not going to cry, because I told my wife I'm not going to cry. I'm wearing my Stetsons, I'm wearing my Spurs, and Tom Burke, give me a joke, something. Help me out. It's been an honor, a truly honor, being in formation with you young fighters. It's been a privilege to stand in formation with the heroes and say I am a soldier, and I will always be a soldier. You can always count on me, even when I hang up my Stetson and my Spurs, but they won't be far away because I'll always be able to grab them. I would like to leave you all with something. As a leader, I was always thinking about. As a leader, you must understand the challenges of leadership. To be strong, but not rude. To be kind, but not weak. To be bold, but not bully. To be thoughtful, but not lazy. Be humble, but not timid. Be proud, but not arrogant. Those are the things that, as a leader, I always thought about to make sure I expressed myself to the soldiers and making sure that I wasn't that individual that was the bully. So I appreciate every single soldier that's been under me, under my command, and I just appreciate the soldiers because they don't get enough credit. To my family, I'm not going to cry. So I just need a few more minutes. I promise I'll cut this short because I will start crying and then my Spurs will get rusted. To my family, they have been resilient through the change and the unknown. They have been positive in every move we have made. I think we're up to 10 counts now. We ain't moving anymore for another 10 years at least, right? I think we did 3 moves in a 2-year period when we was in Germany. We were supposed to be in Germany just to hang out and relax at Hornsfels, and that didn't wind up to be because I kind of got voluntold to go to an assignment and deploy 6 months later. And when we came back, we moved to Winford. No, we moved to Grafenbeer, and then we deployed again 9 months later. So my wife and boys have been there with me the whole time. I just want to say thank you. I know I'm not always there for you, but got it. To my best buddy, my best friend, love of my life, I can't forget my medic. No, she was not really my medic. She was in the brigade, and we had a long conversation with her first on and everybody else. I was not in a leadership position, so yes, I could date her at the time. So. Show the rigs on that one. To my wonderful wife, an amazing wife, my beautiful wife, Renee. Thank you for all your support, the sacrifice you endured throughout my career, the long late nights, the long phone calls, the training events, and all the deployments. You're my rock, you're my heart. I love you. I know I can't say that enough, and I know I probably haven't said it enough, but words can't express how much you mean to me and how lucky and I'm blessed I have you on my side. Thank you. To Devon and Lucas, the Lily boys. I know I missed a lot of your young age, your young life. However, I promise to be a part of your young adult life and make new memories with you. So I know we're gonna plan some trips. I know we're gonna go out and hang out. And I know Devon keeps shaking his head. I didn't forget Devon wants to go to Ireland when he's 21. And Lucas wants to go to New York to Times Square for New Year's Eve. So Devon was born on St. Patrick's Day in Ireland Hospital at Fort Knox, and then Lucas was born on New Year's, and that's why they want to do those things. So I didn't forget, we're going to execute that, I promise you. Devon, you got to get a job. Just saying. Ireland's expensive. To my mother, thank you. You and Dad was my rock and my inspiration as I was coming up. I thank you. I know it's been a long time since I've been back to New York. I know I'm never going to get into this. I promise I will come to New York and visit more. Since you came to visit me, I will come visit you. I promise. I know my dad's not here right now, but he could look down right now and he's smiling with his little smile that he always had. And I'm sure my sisters know that little smile he always had. He never really smiled, but he smiled. That was a smile. My dad's happy. So I know he's happy up there in heaven right now, looking down. To my mother-in-law, Madeline, my father-in-law, Paul, he thought I didn't going to say anything. Like, there's no way I could probably not say anything about you guys. You have been there every single time, and I appreciate it. Every time Renee, I'm sure she called you and I was gone, she blew you guys' phone up and cried. I appreciate you always being there, taking the long trips to Germany when I was gone. And I just want to say thank you. Love you. To my sisters, even though I know it's been tough, I've been gone away from the family for quite some time, and I know we haven't really bonded much, but I know every time I get on the phone, either to Virginia, Long Island, or even North Carolina, I could always get on the phone and talk to you guys about anything, and you're always there to help me out. So I just want to say thank you, and I really appreciate you. Love you guys. To my brother-in-laws out there, because Marvin, thank you for taking care of my sister and just being there for her every time. And I love all the long chats we always have, and I'm sure I'll be blowing your phone up since now I'll be retired. And you can come out and help me work on putting about 60 more tickets on the property for the horses. Adam, you know you're coming too, so make sure you have your work gloves. We got another barn to put up. I got a couple more horses. Be good. I got you. I got a back support. It's good. Love you. You know you're always there for me, and I'm always there for you, so you can come too, because I need your help. All right. What's that? Pastor Craig, thank you for coming out. I just want to say appreciate it. I know we moved out here a year and a half ago. My wife and I went to the school. I registered my two boys at the high school, and she broke out in tears, and administrative secretary was there, Ms. Ham, and she talked to her about 5 minutes, and she said, Renee's like, I need a church for my kids. And Ms. Ham said, come to this church right here. And that's where we've been. I just want to say, Pastor Craig, thank you. It's been a blessing, and I am touched every single day just in being a part of the church. Thank you. In closing, thank you everyone for coming out. God bless the United States and Armed Forces, Soldiers for Life, Renegades. Thank you.
Send someone. Please come up. So our first class, Jenine West, retires today with 24 years of service. Today! Did I say it loud enough?
No, sir.
Today. Today. What is it? The 19th of January.
Yes, sir.
24 years
Today.
today. But she told me, she said it feels like 14 because like the first 10 years went by so fast. And so that's good. That means you were having fun.
I had
Okay. And so, of course, she's joined today by her husband of 13 years, Master Sergeant Andrew West, who works in Battalion S3. So our first class West credits her husband with providing her unfailing support of her career and assisting her in achieving her 799 points when she needed 798 to get promoted. So thank you for your service and your support. Also here is her daughter, Essence. Elise couldn't come. And so I added some other folks. So I met Editha Williams, mother-in-law. Not from New York, she's actually from Jamaica. There we go. I met Cecil, who's going to join the military. Son Cecil. And then Crystal, your sister. And Keisha, who's the oldest. And Elaine O'Neill on. As a matter of fact, everybody who's here with Sergeant First Class West, if y'all could just please stand for a moment, because there's so many. She didn't want. Wow. Come on, there's more. So we've got folks from North, South, Florida, Texas, and so, you know, unbelievable support and love. So Sergeant First Class West was born and raised in New York, Staten Island, in the shadow of the Twin Towers. She likes to say she's a 9/11 baby. Sergeant West entered the Army in 1994 from Virginia Beach, Virginia, and attended basic combat training at Fort Leonard Wood, Missouri, and advanced individual training at Fort Lee, Virginia, where she received her MOS in Logistics Specialist, 92 Alpha. And she will tell you that it's all about logistics. So she's been stationed at Fort Campbell, Germany, Fort Bragg, Fort Belvoir, Korea, Japan. She identified one of her most rewarding duties, she almost brought tears in my eyes, was when she was assigned in Japan. And so normally we get tasked as casualty assistance officers. And sometimes you're the person who makes the first call, who comes up, and you've got to give the family bad news. But sometimes you're the person who has to guide them through. She didn't really like that task too much initially, but it was an MP soldier who was killed by his own weapon, and the family needed Sergeant First Class West. You know, sometimes the Lord puts people in a place it needs to be at a certain time, and that was her. And so to this day, she keeps in touch with that family. But I think the way Sergeant West expressed it to me, She was as much a blessing for that family as they were for her. So I appreciate you sharing that with me. And so her deployments include Kuwait, Bosnia, Afghanistan. She told me she spent 20 months. How did you do that? Spent 20 months in Bosnia, Tuzla, Maine, while stationed in Germany, which sounds a little painful for me, but not if you love logistics and you're working logistics, moving things in and out of Bosnia, through the country, through the Balkans. She loved her job. She did it well. And loved to serve. She served as the G4 Logistics Non-Commissioned Officer here at the United States Army Central. She will reside here in Sumter, South Carolina after retirement and hopes to work as a logistician and continue with her schooling. She's enrolled in the School for Logistics at St. Leo University, is on course to receive her bachelor degree by the end of the year. And so I also know wherever Sergeant First Class West goes, she will end up, Mickey Mouse will be there with her. So for those of y'all, so just like the alpaca. So most of her family knows, so I'm not saying anything people don't know, but she is a huge fan of Mickey Mouse and knows all the words to Steamboat Willie. And so he will be there with you. And so with that, I'd like to turn the floor over to Sergeant.
Regardless of what my friends and family think, I'm not a public speaker. I just want to say thank you for everyone coming. First and foremost, got to thank my Lord and Savior. Without him, this day wouldn't be. I only enlisted for 4 years. I argued with my cousin. She told me that's not going to happen. You're going to go the distance. And I told her, no, I'm doing 4 years, and I wish she could be here to tell me, I told you, you're gonna go the distance. So, thank you, sir. I just want to say thank you to my mom and my dad, my kids, all my family and friends who traveled really far in all this crazy weather, just to be here with me to say farewell to this portion of my life and help me move to the second portion of my life. My battle buddy for life. That's all that. I don't know where I would be without him. He is, get on my nerve, but but whatever it is he's telling me, he's right. And all he wants to do is see me do and continue to shine and continue to make his name look great. And I don't want to ever dishonor his name. So thank you for that. And that's pretty much it for me. Thank you, everybody.
Has this been a day or what? So as we look back at the unique careers of our retirees and reflect on the sacrifices each of them has made, as well as their families, we should also take the time to look forward to the continued service they will provide to the nation as soldiers for life. This may be the end of one chapter in your life, but it is the beginning of an entire new episode in an intriguing sitcom we call life. So thank you for your service, Captain Zone, always first, Army strong. Now I would like to move to the more formal portion of today's ceremony.
Sergeant Major Henderson is now joining Brigadier General Hubbard for presentations in today's celebration of service ceremony. Our first retiree being honored today is Lieutenant Colonel Ava M. Winford. She is joined by her uncle, Mr. John Farrar. The Meritorious Service Medal is presented to Lieutenant Colonel Winford for exceptionally meritorious service to the nation for over 35 years, culminating as a D37 Executive Officer, United States Army Central. Lieutenant Colonel Winford's selfless sacrifice, expertise, dedication, and professionalism are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon herself, United States Army Central, the Department of the Army, and the United States of America. The retirement certificate signifies that Lieutenant Colonel Winford has fulfilled her military obligation to our Army and nation. She has served faithfully and honorably for over 35 years and is officially placed on retired roles. Brigadier General Hubbard is now pinning Lieutenant Colonel Winford's retirement pin on her lapel. Brigadier General Hubbard will now present Lieutenant Colonel Winford her retirement flag. Sergeant Major Henderson is now presenting Lieutenant Colonel Winford the Command Group Coin of Excellence. Mr. Farrar is now receiving the Commanding General's Letter of Appreciation. Lieutenant Colonel Winford is now presenting bouquets of flowers to her aunts, Mrs. Clara Farrar, Mrs. Frances Hendrick, and Mrs. Mary Thomas. Lieutenant Colonel Winford is now presenting bouquets of flowers to her friends, Mrs. Catherine Miller and Miss Darlena Craig.
I have to tell you the story real quick about Darlene. I know, she's real lovely. I got stationed here July 2014. deployed to Kuwait. Foot didn't touch the ground at Camp Air John, even though I've been there before. Bad banana accident, slipped going down the bus steps, got stuck at the very bottom. I think at first people, you know, when you see people fall, you kind of like, ah, and then it was like, you could just see the faces turn from laughing to sheer horror. So evidently, this fall looked really bad. Got stuck, broke my right ankle. A week later, I'm being meted back to Germany. This woman came down after my cousin Lonnie was a nurse for a week. He couldn't stay the whole time. She came down and spent 6 months out of her time. The next year, she was at it again because I had shoulder surgery. And last year, she was here again because I had another shoulder surgery. So this is like her second home. So that's the story. Yeah, the rest of my family that's here, Connie, please come up. We get to do a group grouping.
Come on.
Ladies and gentlemen, Lieutenant Colonel Ava M. Winford, United States Army. Our second retiree being honored today is Lieutenant Colonel Stephen Heinz. He is joined by his wife, Mrs. Denise Heinz. The Meritorious Service Medal is presented to Lieutenant Colonel Heinz for exceptionally meritorious service to the nation for over 25 years, culminating as the Engineer Plans and Operations Chief. His actions are in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, the Department of the Army, and the United States of America. The retirement certificate signifies that Lieutenant Colonel Heinz has fulfilled his military obligation to our Army and nation. He has served faithfully and honorably for over 25 years and is officially placed on the retired rolls. Brigadier General Hubbard is now pinning Lieutenant Colonel Heinz's retirement pin on his lapel. Brigadier General Hubbard will now present Lieutenant Colonel Heinz his retirement flag. Sergeant Major Henderson is now presenting Lieutenant Colonel Heinz the Command Group Point of Excellence. The Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Mrs. Heinz on the occasion of the retirement of her husband from active duty with the United States Army. Her unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible her husband's lasting contribution to the nation. Mrs. Heinz is also receiving the Commanding General's Letter of Appreciation. Lieutenant Colonel Heinz is now presenting a Michael's gift card and bouquet of flowers to his wife, Mrs. Denise Heinz. Lieutenant Colonel Heinz is now presenting his son, Joseph, a watch worn by his father in the Vietnam War. Lieutenant Colonel Heinz will now present his daughter, Trinity, a pocket constitution, and daughter, Sophie, his dog tags.
We're going to need a couple on this side too. One more. Thank you. Hold up, we got to wait for the general. Thank you. Good to go.
Our third retiree being honored today is Command Sergeant Major David Lallee. He is joined by his wife, Renee Lallee. The Legion of Merit is presented to Command Sergeant Major Lallee for exceptionally meritorious service to the nation for over 31 years, culminating as the Digital Liaison Detachment Operations Chief, United States Army Central. Command Sergeant Major Lallee's exemplary leadership and commitment to soldiers is in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflect great credit upon himself, the United States Army Central, the Department of the Army, and the United States of America. The retirement certificate signifies that Command Sergeant Major Lallee has fulfilled his military obligation to our Army and nation. He has served faithfully and honorably for 31 years and is officially placed on retired rolls. Brigadier General Hubbard is now pinning Command Sergeant Major Lalee's retirement pin on his lapel. Brigadier General Hubbard will now present Command Sergeant Major Lalee his retirement flag. Sergeant Major Henderson is now presenting Command Sergeant Major Lalee the Command Group Coin of Excellence. The Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Mrs. Lalee on the occasion of the retirement of her husband from active duty in the United States Army. Her unfailing support and understanding helped to make possible her husband's lasting contribution to the nation. Mrs. Lalee is also receiving the Commanding General's Letter of Appreciation. Command Sergeant Major Lalee is now presenting a bouquet of flowers to his wife, Mrs. Renee Lalee.
I get my Devon and Lucas up real quick. I'm throwing this flip to your script, ma'am. Sorry.
Story of my life.
I'm gonna be in the middle because I'm gonna shoot one. There you go. All right. I want to give one of my spurs to each of my sons. It's for Devon. I want you to keep this and cherish this whenever you give this to him. For Lucas, you know, you see there. Both of mine actually, you know, see. And also, I'm gonna give him a coin. That big picture. Would you like to hold it around in front of us? All right, can you picture real quick? Good?
One more, something.
Doesn't like pictures.
Good.
All right, next.
Command Sergeant Major Lalee will now present his mother, Rafaela Lalee, mother-in-law, Madeline Schwartz, and sisters with bouquets of flowers.
In that order, just right dress, that's good. Picture. Good. One at a time. It's the order of the youngest to oldest. The shortest is the middle.
Pat, group picture. And Pete, Adam, Marvin, Adam Jr., Pastor. You know you're coming. Come on. Adam. You're not gonna come? Oh, you got the baby? Okay. Yeah. You're taller than me. Yeah. You're fine. All right, here we go.
One more time.
Good. Oh.
Here you go.
Ladies and gentlemen, Command Sergeant Major David L. Our fourth retiree being honored today is Sergeant First Class Jenine West. She is joined by her husband, Master Sergeant Dwight West, and her mother, Ms. Patricia Statham. The Meritorious Service Medal is presented to Sergeant First Class West for exceptionally meritorious service to the nation for 24 years, culminating as the G4 Logistics Non-Commissioned Officer, United States Army Central. Her immense contributions and unwavering performance is in keeping with the finest traditions of military service and reflects great credit upon herself, the United States Army Central, the Department of the Army, and the United States of America. The retirement certificate signifies that Sergeant First Class West has fulfilled the military obligation to her Army and nation. She has served faithfully and honorably for 24 years and is officially placed on the retired rolls. Brigadier General Hubbard is now pinning Sergeant First Class West's retirement pin on her lapel. Brigadier General Hubbard will now present Sergeant First Class West her retirement flag. Sergeant Major Henderson is now presenting Sergeant First Class West the Command Group Coin of Excellence. The Department of the Army Certificate of Appreciation is presented to Master Sergeant Dwight West on the occasion of the retirement of his wife from active duty with the United States Army. His unfailing support and understanding helped make possible his wife's lasting contribution to the nation. Ms. Patricia Statham is now receiving the Commanding General's Letter of Appreciation. Sergeant First Class West will now present her mother, Ms. Patricia Statham, and her mother-in-law, Ms. Edith Williams, bouquets of flowers. Sergeant First Class West is also presenting her father, Mr. Yusuf Mutakabir, a prayer rug. Sergeant First Class West will now present a bracelet to her daughter, Essence.
Oh, no, we're gonna make this happen. Come on. Come on. Now, y'all didn't come all this way. Y'all didn't come all this way. We're gonna get a picture of this. We got patience. We got patience. You're true.
Misha, Marlo, Donna, Isaac, everybody that's here with you, Stacy.
We'll squeeze you in here. Go make up the picture.
I don't know, yes, our major. You a fish island.
Back.
That's everybody?
You got to way back, wide legs.
You want more? There we go. There we go.
Stop pushing me.
Ladies and gentlemen, please join me in a round of applause for all of our retirees and their families. Ladies and gentlemen, Brigadier General Hubbard.
Okay, so the only way I know to close this is to paraphrase the Apostle Paul. You have fought a good fight. You have finished your race. You have kept the faith. Henceforth, you deserve all the recognition, rights, and rewards that will come to you and your family in the land of retirement. We thank you for your strength. We thank you for your service. We thank you for honoring us with your commitment. May God continue to bless you and your family, and may God bless the Army and the United States of America.
Ladies and gentlemen, the retirement medley will now be played in honor of our retired soldiers.